Have you been, dude, in this
Yeah.
crazy, crazy
Oh
times?
man, yeah, it's been a little crazy. My kids we're trying to do homeschooling. In between me getting art assignments done and my wife working from home in the living room, and yeah, it's pretty nuts. But we're making it work, and we're not sick yet. So
And you've
it's
been
been,
home from before, right?
and then
Like, were you
yeah,
in
I
an
did
office or in a studio?
yeah, I've worked from home for about 6 or 7 years now. So this has been nothing new for me, but I'm having to share my house now with my wife, my home studio. So
Okay,
yeah, but it's all good though. We're making it work.
that's
Sorry, I'm trying
good.
to get back in the trying to figure out my camera. Here we go.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have tech
Sorry, I'm
issues. My
let's see.
mic and my camera just stopped working, so I'm just going through my phone right now. But
Oh, okay.
tech. I have other
Yeah,
things I
these
could
man
have.
cut.
This is a Hail Mary pass.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Am I centered? Okay. That's
I
right.
think so.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what I wanted to talk to you about here is
Mm-hmm.
like your art journey, how you became a full-time creative. So, let's
Yeah,
go
man.
back. Were you like
Oh,
always an
okay.
artsy kid growing up?
I I was like my the way I started drawing cartoons was in fifth grade. I took a like a, the elementary school art classes that and I always kind of liked drawing, but I never really thought about doing cartooning, really all that much. But in this art class, this my fifth grade art teacher assigned everybody to do a comic strip, and I came up with like this gag with a frog that got eaten by a snake or something like that, and it was just really, it just something just clicked with me when I did it, like um, this is a cool way to express, humor, and like I like making people laugh. I don't like to perform. I'm such an introvert. I don't like to get up in front of people and be like a stand-up comedian or something. So I was like, well, drawing, I can do that and not have to, I can let the drawing, be what people see. So yeah, it just clicked, and I started writing and drawing my own comic strips, and as for fun as a hobby. As a kid, when I
Okay.
was playing sports and having friends, I was doing that, and 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 then like I did that, like I drew for my high school newspaper and then my college newspaper, and ended up getting an art degree from UT Arlington because I didn't have any other skills or
Okay.
interests, and yeah. Then after college, I just started hitting the pavement, trying to send my work out, and wasn't up to a professional level yet for a while, but and eventually, this is long story short, I got into Mad Magazine, started drawing stuff for the SpongeBob comic book, and that was just all from like networking, online, just, taking pointers from rejections and polishing the portfolio and getting back at it, and getting my work in front of the right eyeballs eventually, and it kind of finally clicked into place after about probably 10 years of after college, getting the first big breaks.
Yeah, I
So
heard I forget who it was. This says yeah, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
right, yeah, no, that's very true. Like for me, it was almost exactly about 10 years, which is so that's yeah, very true words. Yeah.
We're growing up, what were you growing up with, like book wise, and what you're reading? Because when that assignment
Yeah.
came in, you had an idea what a comic strip is.
Yeah. I was a big fan of like I never read a whole lot of comic books. I was big into like newspaper strips. Like I loved
I can see that.
Garfield, which may be really dorky, but I don't care. I loved it as a kid. And Calvin and Hobbes is my favorite comic strip of all time. I read a ton of that, and of course Far Side and uh, um, Peanuts, all the ones that everybody, I actually read the Sunday paper, to read the comic strips. I
Yeah.
was a big fan of that, and when that was back still a thing, and then of course I was big into Mad Magazine when I discovered that as like 10 or 11 years old. Um, so that was my main education, and then like I really loved like the '90s, the early '90s. There was the animation boom from like when Ren and Stimpy premiered. It was kind of like a huge like kind of all the '80s cartoons are pretty. They were just half-hour toy commercials and they sucked. I mean, we can debate what was good or not, but like they were all pretty much pretty commercialized. And Ren and Stimpy was like a jolt of electricity that kind of made people like, oh, you can be crazy and silly and gross, and kids will like it, and it can make money. And then we had stuff like, Liquid Television on MTV with Beavis and Butthead, and
Yeah, that
we had
was once it got to cable, it really changed. I
yeah,
think.
right, yeah, cable network TV, network animation was always pretty. Aside from like Simpsons, that was like the most subversive thing on TV
Yeah,
in decades. And I
they
think that
had
was
a.
that was jump started the whole '90s animation boom.
I remember watching a show called Toy Galaxies and talk about the
Uh
requirements they
huh.
had in the 80s and 90s about every cartoon had to be educational. That may have just been like in the
Yeah,
Saturday morning block, but like
yeah.
late
Well,
night
like
could
I
be
think
different rules, but no one wanted to take that risk.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, see, for a while in the '80s, from what I understand, yeah, it was all like just designed to sell toys and cereal, and we loved it as a kid. We didn't realize how crass it was, but um, but yeah, then in the '90s, it was like I think kids got cynical and we could kind of sense that they're just being pandering so they can sell me garbage, and then like with like the stuff on Nickelodeon, it became more subversive. Where like they were still of course selling toys and stuff, but it was like we're actually trying to entertain instead of just sell sell product. And you can tell it. The kids are pretty savvy; they can tell a difference. And
Hmm.
yeah, that really spoke to me to seeing like an actual artistic vision instead of just a crass commercial product.
Yeah, with gang little toys that
And
like
then oh yeah,
immediately
yeah, and I
follow the
still
commercial break.
yeah, and I like buying the toys. Don't get me wrong, but like I like to have a decent show to go along with it too. Like
Yeah, for real.
you know, so
So
yeah, that
I
was all
like
big inspiration for me. So,
I look at your stuff and I see a lot of horror movie
yeah, oh yeah,
references and background. Is that something you
yeah,
grew up
that's like
with, or
I'm a
something you
big
came across later?
yeah. So I've always really liked monster movies. Me and my mom were big into monster movies. Like we liked watching as a kid. I was watching like I'm sure you remember on like weird like UHF stations that have like monster marathons and stuff on like Saturday afternoons and
Okay.
yeah, we would like watch like weird they'd show like '80s horror movies and old Universal horror, and we just dug it. We like my mom. We share the same humor and sensibilities, so I got real big into that, and I just ran with it, and I got big into like underground weird films. Got big into like John Waters movies, and
Oh,
like and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my all-time favorite movies. The original,
when
it's
did you
something
see
about like the
that?
raw like original Chainsaw.
Yeah.
Like I think I rented it on VHS. It was when like when you actually could go to a video store. I just be like, hey mom, let me rent this movie. I was maybe 11 or 12 or something, and she was
Okay.
like, okay, it's probably scary, but my mom was pretty chill, like you know with what I would watch, and so like
That's cool.
I saw a lot of yeah. I mean, it's she was a great parent. I don't want people to get the wrong idea, but she she knew that I would. Hopefully, she could sense that I wasn't going to be a psychopath. I would channel this weird energy into artwork instead of being a social misfit.
Yeah, she because my memory with Texas Chainsaw is weird. I just remember the final scene with the guy with the chainsaw, right, rolling
uh
over his head.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
The last shot. It's like one of my
I was like
all-time favorite
6. I was
movies.
really young. I don't
It's
know. It's a vague
yeah.
memory.
Like those like low budget like '70s movies. That's why like John Waters was a big influence on me. We're like that real tactile grittiness, that you can't get now with digital media, and it's like and when a lot of the stuff in my work, I intentionally try to make look kind of scuffed up, and if you
Hmm.
look on my Instagram, I have a lot of stuff where it looks like old paper, like pulpy paper, and like old
Yeah.
newsprint style and half tones that are misregistered and like because even though I do it all digitally, even if it has like a tactile look and feel, I feel like it just hits me more. I don't know. It just hits my sweet spot of like what I like.
I
Not
think
to
a lot
dismiss
of it is
artwork.
like it carries its own charm, but
Hmm.
it's something we grew up with. I grew up with the smell
Right.
of newsprint because I
Yeah.
read a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
old like Snoopy books when I was growing up, and I did
Yeah.
the
Oh
same like
man.
you,
Yeah.
newspapers.
Hmm.
Every time my parents got a newspaper, I went like, "Where's the comics?" I went straight to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me too. And then yeah, and like it's I hate that The kid. I'm gonna get on my kids these days. Not a rant, but like, yeah, kids don't get to experience that tactile disability. But I know they don't. Because they haven't really experienced it, they're not gonna miss it. But I miss it. Like I still
It's
like.
weird. I'm gonna adjust my phone because I gotta plug it in. But
Okay.
my stepson loves retro stuff. Like
Oh, cool.
he got a gold Atari computer Coleco thing, and he's
Those are
in
cool.
love.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I've been
he's
playing
digging
my.
into it. He loves old things. He went and like found serial numbers and where was it pressed and like the company. It's like Jesus.
Oh,
He
that's
found out
awesome.
the one he bought went to a school, which is
Oh,
why
that's
there's so many
cool.
modifications to it. Because
Oh, yeah,
instead of just
yeah,
throwing it away, they
yeah.
fixed it.
That's cool. But, like, yeah, I try to get my kid into old like Nintendo, and like he'll like because that style he likes Minecraft and that 8-bit
Okay.
style, and I'm trying to be like, well, this is where they took it from, and he's like, okay, this is cool, but I know kids discover their own things and they're into it or not. If you try
It
to,
took
as
a
a
while.
parent, if you try to shove it down their throat, they're gonna immediately want to reject it. So I just try to not be too geeky about it, but
Yeah, let him discover in his own.
yeah, like if my parents had been like tried to shove like I don't know Archie comics or whatever down my throat, I wouldn't have liked it, or whatever was like whatever my parents in the '80s would have been trying to get me to like. It's like my dad
Yeah,
trying to get
see,
me to like sports. I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. Thanks.
the same here. I was
Yeah.
drawing and doing an art class day. So when you got, because I
Mm.
remember I use you as an example for a lot of up and coming artists in
Oh,
that
thanks, man.
because you found your
Hopefully in a good way.
success outside of the con circuit for the most part. Because remember we used to do
Uh-huh.
cons together, and then you
Yeah,
went
yeah, I had fun
away,
with it.
and then when you came
Uh-huh.
back, you're like you had like all these IPs behind you,
Yeah.
SpongeBob, Simpsons, Mad Magazine. I was like, wow, you left
It was
what
crazy. Like, yeah,
everybody goes
because in like
after during this way.
yeah, because in like mid 2000s was when I was trying to I would do cons and like just have my own little mini comics I would do with my own original characters and and paintings and drawings and like everybody was doing, and it just like I would have a little sell some stuff, and then like just trying to pound that pavement, and then it like within about doing that for 4 or 5 years or so, and I finally was able to get those good gigs, and get like you said like the IPs, like like Simpsons and Garfield and Uncle Grandpa and whatever else I was working on. Yeah, then I started hitting the cons again, and actually it felt more like legit, and that was a cool, that was just a cool feeling to be one of the invited guests, not to dismount anyone that gets the artist alley table or anything. That's kudos to everybody that does that, but I felt like it was a good step up in my career to have that prestige, if you would have call it that,
Yeah,
too much stuff, and
for
still
you to
kind of
get that Mad Magazine gig, how what was that like?
like
Like when he came
that was
in?
really mind blowing because I just got contacted by them out of the blue. One of the editors there that came across my stuff somehow. I'm still not even sure what he saw or like, and yeah, just kind of one of those things that like because I was always one of those like, man, I don't think my work is up to par to submit to Mad, so I had to get the invitation for them to say, please submit. So, I've always been pretty bad about that. Like, all artists, I think a lot of artists are pretty down on themselves and are like,
Yeah,
man, I just, but, yeah, once it took a lot for me to get confidence and be like, well, if Mad is posting my stuff and it has some merit to it. So I'll finally kind of put more of myself out there, and yeah,
your
actually try to be more proactive about getting
your
gigs.
style is like you, but it so fits them. Like it was the perfect
Yeah.
little Venn diagram of
Yeah.
everything.
Thank
Like
you. And
you
like the
fit
big,
their motif, but like you have a
yeah.
very unique voice.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's the kind of been the big trick for me. Is the last thing I want to do is be derivative. And like everybody, the way I see it, all artists they like ingest all their influences, and like it kind of gets mixed up in a soup in your brain, and then and it comes out in your art. And hopefully that's you and your style, and it's it's unique and different, but it could harken back to other things. That's like you know, I bring up Ren and Stimpy a lot because that was such a huge thing for me. Like you can look at Ren and Stimpy and see Fleischer cartoons and Warner Brothers, Bob Clampett, and all kinds of stuff. You know, old like mid-century modern illustration, UPA style, and like. So I use that as a good example to show like how a lot of different things can be brought in to create something new, and that's your voice. You know, that's what I try to encourage. You know, when the unfortunate person asks my advice for art, you know, I tell them to, you know, don't be afraid to wear your influences on your sleeve, but you know, bring yourself to it as well. You know, don't just copy your favorite artist, but take what you like about them and make that your own. And it's kind of a hard thing to do without showing examples, but I think that's important to be. You know, if I'm making any sense. Sorry to
It
ramble
takes
on.
years for that. Like
It does,
I
yeah. And it took me. I'm still working on it. I think you know, if you're like me, you know, you're still, you know, your stuff is great, man. I could definitely tell it's you, but you know, I think we're always constantly evolving, and you absorb new influences, and that gets its way into your work in weird ways, and you
I always
know,
talk
I think,
about earning my black belt the old-fashioned way, and
uh,
where I put on a white belt and I just get it dirty after years and years of
yeah.
studying.
Oh, no, I like
Yo,
that. No, that's good. Yeah,
like
no,
that's how
that's a
you
great
earn your
visual way
black
to.
belt.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great way to describe it. Yeah. Yeah. You trudge through and you like, yeah, you pick up this from this place and learn that from that place. And yeah, eventually that black belt becomes your, your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to cover this real quick. How did you get on The Price is Right with Drew
Yeah.
Carey?
That was one of the most surreal things ever. Like, I did a gag cartoon for Mad where it was I came up with this idea of, you know how on the Price is Right their contestants, a lot of the contestants make their own custom made T-shirts with
Oh
like
yeah,
weird
yeah.
sayings that say, you know. So I came up with this gag idea where like a lot of contestants were wearing like these weird obscene T-shirts. I can't remember what it was, like rejected Price is Right contestants or something. And
Oh
so
my god.
anyway, like so when the producer at Price is Right apparently would buy copies of Mad Magazine for Drew Carey to for him to read on set, and he came across my cartoon, and he said he really loved it. She emailed me and said that, hey, Drew Carey loves your cartoon and
Oh,
wants to buy the original from you. And I was like, oh man, hey, sweet, cool, that's amazing. And she was like, hey, if you're ever out in LA, let me know. We can get you. You can take a sneak tour backstage and meet him real quick. And so I was like, that was too hard. That was too cool of an opportunity to turn down. So yeah, my
for
wife and I
real?
flew out there and got the tour, and it was all really quick. We watched the taping of the show and met him really briefly, but he was really nice and cool and liked my art. And yeah, that's that story. I didn't get to play the game or win any cool prizes, but it was
Such a weird journey.
amazing. Yeah, it's just because I came up with a weird, dumb idea in a magazine. Like,
It sounds like one of the things like if you're ever in LA, you're like, no, I'm gonna go. Like when's the next
yeah,
free weekend?
yeah. I haven't been to LA. I had never been before or since then, but I enjoyed my time there. But yeah,
You know,
that was insane.
it's hilarious. So did you
Yeah,
growing up, did you ever want to be like syndication in a newspaper, or is that like had that
yeah,
come and
that's a
gone
good
by the time you
question.
got into it?
Yeah, my as a kid, I think like yeah, my goals for my art changed a lot as I was growing up and doing it. Like at first, I wanted to be like Jim Davis, and like because he was the first one, like the creator of Garfield. I was like, man, if I could have a comic strip, in a newspaper and a bunch of books and a bunch of merchandise, and have my stuff proliferate or be like Charles Schultz or something. Like, I wanted to do that for a long time, and then I think when Ren and Stimpy made me want to get into animation, so I was like, man, it'd be cool to have my own to get into
Okay.
animation, learn storyboarding and stuff like that. And then I realized that I didn't have the patience or really the artistic chops to be in animation as a career. And then I switched to in college. I wanted to get into. So I was originally going to go to TV to go to college to learn animation to be to work at a studio, Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or something. And then it was in the late '90s, and that was when all animation programs wanted to teach you 3D animation, like
Uh,
Pixar. And I was like, nothing against it. It just wasn't
hmm
the way I wanted to make art. And so then I started just taking generic art classes in college and got into just illustration. And I was like, okay, I'll focus on just being an illustrator. Like so that's when I got into like that kind of covers a broad spectrum of stuff like kids book illustration, packaging design, packaging art, comic books. So I just focused on just that and just working on my style and kind of infiltrating it wherever I could. And so now, years later, I've actually worked on a few animated projects that,
Yeah.
and something, yeah, and product design and advertising art and stuff. So that's the weird thing about what we do. It can find its way into all kinds of different places. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think Warlick is work on a medical thing, like a chiropractic
Oh
thing.
yeah, I could see
So
that
yeah,
too.
our fields are all over the
It's
place.
and it's also whoever's gonna pay me to do it, I will
Oh,
draw as long as it's not super obscene or gonna get me in jail. I will draw. you know, I will
yeah, it's
draw like I drew illustrations for an ad campaign for a soda company last summer.
that's cool.
And so yeah, that's a board game company stuff. So, but
It's
yeah,
all
it's
over the
always
board. Like
it
there's a
is.
big illustration like boom coming back. I think there's a more appreciation for it,
It kind of
more
seems like it, yeah.
companies.
With one, especially with everyone has a screen in front of their face all the time now. That like yeah, with social media. Companies take advantage of social media. I've done artwork for social media campaigns for companies.
Oh, cool.
Just they need you to stop for at least a millisecond to look at your product, and if you're have an eye-catching style, it could maybe do that. So it's hard to get people's attention because with so much.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of avenues to pursue.
Have
As far
you?
as
Do you have a hard time like with the corporate work? Because I know a
mm,
lot of my friends do
uh,
because they like throw their heart into it, and whenever they get
yeah.
critiqued from the client, they take it super personally.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've been lucky with corporate stuff that they're pretty much having ideas to what they come to me for a specific reason. They like my style, and so they want me to just do your
Okay.
thing with it. And like the most frustrating thing with that is that like and it's from myself to where I'll hold back too much, thinking that like, oh, this is for a particular, this is for kind of a high end client. They're not going to want anything super weird and gross, but it actually they kind of do. So I have to, kind of lean more into, being weird. And when I was, I experienced that on working on the SpongeBob comic a lot too, because I would
Hmm.
feel like I don't want to, you know, take this beloved character and make it
Yeah,
horrific and but the editor was always like being like make it weirder, it's fine, like we want you to do your thing with it. So that was kind of a hurdle to get over because it was kind of all in my head.
I can see that.
It was an interesting problem that I never would have thought I would have until it kind of just came about naturally.
My college professor always told me to go all the way out and let
Hmm.
the client dial back in. Because it's hard to like
Yeah.
keep pushing forward and see where the edge is. So like go all the way out and then you
Hmm.
can tame it down, but you get
That
to
is good
keep
advice.
some
Yeah,
of those outrageous elements.
that is good advice, and that's what I've learned. And that the skill that I think I've learned after being a freelancer for a while is to it's easier to rein it in, to go, just go crazy at first because the initial stages, I just throw everything weird
Mhm.
idea out that I can, and then then it's easier to dial back instead of trying to add more to it. So
That's
yeah, I think a lot
legit.
of illustrators have that same kind of issue. It seems like.
So where do you see your next like future, like how where you're moving forward? I saw someone
Uh
modeled one of your illustrations. Like he looked into
huh.
like 3D stuff, animation stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was cool. That was a guy that I've known online for a while that has his own toy design company. Yeah, no, I kind of hesitate to, like I was saying earlier, I want, as I was a kid, I was all over the place with what I want to do with my art, and so I'm just kind of riding the wave now. Wherever it takes me, I'm kind of all for. I'd love to design a video game or something. Like,
Hmm.
I've been working on my own graphic novel forever,
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to finally get that out there. If I could just like, you know, just could keep, able to do my own thing that my style and my voice with whatever project, will let me do that. That's how I would like for my career to continue to go.
That's cool.
I know that's a nice vague answer, but
It's we like when I went to college, the iPhone came out and
mhm.
it's changed everything. So
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a print background, and this digital stuff is kind of new. Like this is the
Hmm.
first job I have is like full digital, nothing print.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just gotta write it.
I just did well, I don't know if I can tell, but I designed an animation project
Oh,
for a iPhone, or
oh, that's cool.
a
Is it
company,
like a?
that it's an app, and I can't, I'll announce
Okay,
what
yeah,
it's. I
yeah,
don't want to give too much away, but yeah, it's just like a venue that I never would have thought of is you know that you could pursue, but yeah, I just kind of came along, and yeah, I'll let you know when it.
yeah.
I think closer to
Like
summertime is supposed to debut. So,
okay, yeah, come back on. We'll talk
but
about it. I love talking
yeah,
about the
yeah, I'd love to
process
promote it.
because it's like a lot of smoke and mirrors with the creative process.
Yeah, 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 totally.
I like to throw it out there, like dealing with art directors and CEOs and owners of companies.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I've
sometimes I
worked with
find
some.
the big companies, you think they're all together, they are the worst. And the
Hmm.
small mom and pop companies are like, do whatever
They're
you
the
want.
more, yeah, they're usually the more down to earth, sensible
Yeah.
people. And like I haven't dealt with anything too crazy, but
Oh,
I have noticed like even like we're working with SpongeBob, like it was I worked with just one editor who was amazing. His name is Chris Duffy, and he worked directly with Steven Hillenberg because
oh,
since he published the comic book. It went through Nickelodeon, which was a rare, you know occurrence. He was able to maintain the rights to do that with SpongeBob. So that was a really cool, kind of a unique experience with that book. It's a shame that it
yeah.
couldn't have continued.
It's interesting. Like once you get into the IP world, once you start, your
Mm-hmm.
projects are more and more money. Once you get to
Mm-hmm.
the $1 million range, things get kind of
Yeah,
dicey.
that's the thing. Like that's kind of why I liked comics, because there's kind of such little money in it. There wasn't a whole lot of notes. I mean, like it's like you trade off. I've done other projects where it paid better, and there were you had to rein you in more and give you more notes. And I haven't had anything super crazy, but yeah, I've seen that difference between like like with working with Boom Studios, who gave me a lot of leeway when I was working on like the Uncle Grandpa comic and doing Garfield stuff, and I did an Adventure Time comic. I was able to come up with crazy, weird ideas. And they were like, "Hey, cool," as long as it kind of fits in with the book and it's funny. They were pretty, they're pretty cool with it. So
That's
yeah, I have
good.
noticed because with comics, it's like, I mean, I don't have to tell you, there's like not as much money as in other, not to dismiss the industry, or anything. It's great, but
The boom
it's kind
is not there anymore. We need to evolve the medium overall.
of. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's really changing over the years. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's especially with you. I can't imagine trying to tone you down. Then you get something
Yeah,
else. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, it's like to me, if I tone down my art, then it just looks real generic, because like my thing is like I take like you know kind of cutesy stuff and kind of I guess degrandify it, which basically means adding slime and pus and
Yeah.
guts and stuff to it. So like if you take it, which may sound like I'm like a one trick pony, but I try to, I'm working on a kid's book now that is has a lot of gross elements, but it still isn't going to be too horrific for
Yeah,
preteens. So
it's those kids who would have ran across and fell in love with like Garbage Pail Kids. You know what I mean?
totally, that's the like yeah. I try to put myself in that mindset of like when I was a kid and I saw Garbage Pail Kids at the drugstore or Mad Magazine, or
Yeah.
you know I think what else that was like into then, but you know what I mean. Yeah, like the stuff that kids are into. I try to or when I was
It's
into.
not
I mean, it seems
it's
to
not
kind of
every
still
kid in the
stay.
room in the classroom, but like four or
Yeah,
five, and those are your,
right.
especially that young, that they're that style forever.
Yeah, that was me exactly. It's like my stuff, and I heard people creators say this, but like I don't care if everybody gets my stuff. I want the right people to get it.
Yeah, it rolls on that way.
Yeah,
Like, because you still into horror stuff, you're still into the mad stuff. Like, it's a life thing.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I like to the stuff that I create. I try to think of it as like a gateway to the things that that I like now as an adult. Like, if I could make a comic that has almost the John Watersy vibe without having all the rated X stuff that was in his movies. Like 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 Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Is a very John Watersy movie, but it's a PG movie.
Hmm. Yeah,
So like I try to kind of have that maintain that sensibility. Or Pee Wee's another good example because Pee Wee's Playhouse was designed by underground cartoonists, and you could tell that sensibility. It's like I
yeah.
can tell something is really unique and weird about this, and I wanted to learn more about where it all kind of came from. And so if I can pique someone's interest in that way, then I'd consider that a win. You know.
Have you been
So
keeping with like newspaper or syndication at all? Is that
man,
like a viable
I don't.
market? People
I
come to
mean,
you
like I'm
for
one of the
things?
people that I haven't subscribed to a paper in forever, and I don't know like what's up with syndicated comic strips. I don't know if it's like I don't think really any syndicates are buying any new strips now at
Okay.
all. And then, as far as I know, like it was always really hard to do, but now it's next to impossible because there's like I mean they still rerun Peanuts. They still and
Oh,
they're
yeah,
still you know Mother Goose and Grimm is still being created by Mike
that's
Peters,
true.
and so yeah, it's like, and that's like, I don't feel like my voice is, I don't feel like I can tell, like, do what I want to do in a 4-panel strip really, unless it's just something, a one-off idea, or like I was
That's
doing for
true.
that, I would come up with a 4-panel strip and that, but it was just, I didn't see that as an ongoing, like thing that's going to, you know, carry on for decades,
So, what is this? If you can talk about your indie book, like, what is this? Is this something you say you've been working on for a while?
Oh, my graphic novel. Yeah, I'll I'll talk about it in vague terms, but it's essentially it's like a riff on kaiju movies. So there's like so yeah, it's my biggest pop cultural like geek thing that I geek out about is Godzilla movies. So this is my version of that, and it takes
Oh
place in like
wow,
in kind of in the movie industry, which I like. I've always found fascinating, and it has big rubbery monsters that get the crap beat out of them, and so yeah,
oh
and it's kind of
in your
and
style,
then yeah, my
I
weird
love it.
cartoony gross style. It was an excuse for me to get a lot of stuff out of my system. I wanted to do a book with big giant monsters that looked weird and a main character that's kind of a doofus, like myself. So there's a lot of me in the book, and it's a very much a passion project. And I was lucky to have a publisher willing to say, hey, yeah, let's just go for it. So
Okay,
that'll hopefully come out before I die. It's hard to work on. I have to work on it between other gigs and stuff. So, and you
that's
know
the
as much
hard
as I do,
part.
comics are insanely time consuming. So,
Yeah, you gotta put this personal project in between paid project, and you gotta
got to pay
find
the
that
bills.
balance.
And then yeah, and I'm not the best at that, but I do the best I can. It's hard,
Yeah,
man.
it's hard. I'm still learning
Yeah,
about how to be human and
they
be an
don't.
artist.
They don't. Yeah, the two don't seem to be very exclusive with each other.
Cool. You had
But we do
talked
the best.
about. Let's start talking about your book's coming out this fall.
Okay. Yeah, so I do have a book I can talk about. It's called Twisted Tongues, and it was written by my good friend, and I think you know him, Kit Lively.
Hmm.
And yeah, he was a writer for Mad Magazine, and we collaborated on a bunch of stuff. And yeah, we came up with this book idea of like just gross tongue twisters for kids. So again, this is a way to like get kids interested in gross, weird stuff. Scratch
Hmm.
that itch. It's like Garbage Pail Kids but you could read it in the library. And so I illustrated it, There's little comic strips with two booger characters throughout it that are really funny, and yeah, that comes out in October. And so
Cool.
Kit and I hope to do book signings and kind of events with kids around the DFW area, which I'll let you know about whenever we
Yeah,
get those
totally.
lined up. So
We'll get on
yeah,
and
no,
talk
it's a
about
lot of
them
fun.
more.
It's really, and we got to work on it with Chris Duffy, who was the former editor of SpongeBob Comics, and
Oh, wow.
we got to collaborate again. So it has his and he goes back to Nickelodeon magazine. He's got a really great sense of what's funny with comics and stuff, and so he was always been a good collaborator. So I hope this be a fun book for kids to enjoy once we can get out of quarantine and we can
Yeah,
yeah
the everything's changed. Like, where is a move?
it's
This new paradigm.
yeah I wonder like what's we're gonna look like on the other side if people are gonna keep keep social. I've always been a social distancer anyway. I mean, like, I know I'm just a lot of us artists we're just introverts, and so it hasn't been too hard for me to stay away from people. But
Yeah, for real.
I would like for the world to get back to normal, for
It'll,
everyone's sake.
it'll take a minute, but because I've seen some
Yeah, we'll get
long
there.
projections, but
We'll get there. We're in the middle of it, and it sucks, but we're gonna be fine, everybody.
I
In the
feel like that.
meantime, check out, a lot of your favorite artists are putting out stuff, for you to. I have free stuff on my website to download, free comics for kids
Cool.
and a free coloring book. So
I'll put
go
links
to
down below. I'll hit you up for
grandland.com.
them, but everybody down there, you can find where to follow David.
Yeah, yeah. Look me up on all your favorite social media sites when you're not too busy screaming at your aunt over political stuff or whatever people do, which I don't engage in because that's just a giant waste of time. But
But your political comics are pretty good. Like, are those
oh,
yours, right?
I did. I did. I collaborated with Kit Lively on a lot of
Okay.
those Trump cartoons for Mad. Back when it was still publishing daily stuff on their social media stuff. And
Okay.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like we would get kickback from Trump supporters, and we're like, look back at the 60 whatever years of Mad Magazine. Whoever's been in charge is a target. So there's Obama
Mm-hmm.
cartoons, there's Hillary
Mm-hmm.
cartoons, there's W cart, so
It's
tons of
Mad
Bill Clinton
Magazine.
cartoons.
Like, everyone's a target.
Yeah, and that's the like you have to laugh and make fun of it. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, I'm not taking a political stance. If like something deserves to be made fun of, and someone's got to be there to do it. So,
For real.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna wrap this up,
So,
but if I can find my mouse that doesn't wanna
I know
work
the feeling,
anymore. So,
man.
oh, cool. Thanks for
Oh yeah,
coming on. Thanks for
dude.
chatting.
Thank
It's been
you.
great.
It's always good.
I love your art journey.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, dude. Yeah, again, big fan of you, and always good to talk with you. And hope we can meet up at a con when we can congregate as human beings again.
Yeah, for real. Like, I
Yeah.
missed all that energy.
Yeah. No, I really was bummed when Fan Expo. This was supposed to be in the middle of March or so, and
Yep.
it got canceled, and it's supposed to be in June, I think, and I should be there, but we'll see.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to know right now, but yeah,
Yeah.
man, hope to see you there if you make it or
Cool.
somewhere
For
soon.
real.
Cool.
Alrighty.
All right, man.
Bye.
All right, take care.
I'll have
Thanks,
to.
buddy.
You needed to X out. Then I'll X out. There you go. I can't. No mouse. So I'm on my phone. Hopefully it is not terrible. I don't know where. Because I am streaming through my phone. I'm probably still on. I can't. There we am.